6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
I'm into First Alert Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt. The next big thing is patchy fog tonight, storms tomorrow afternoon. Some of those may be severe. We're going to have to be alert yet again. More storms moving through. It's a pattern that we're in right now. Let's take you over to First Alert AccuTrack radar. This is a live look, and you can see the rain has ended for now. We are catching some breaks out there as we go into this evening. Again, maybe a little bit of fog around 4 tonight. The hourly forecast, so it looks like those temperatures are going to be staying in the 70s for this evening. At least the rain keeping those temperatures down today. I was in Montevallo earlier today. It was so hot, so humid, and in a hurry. Those storms moved in, which, you know, we talked about it would move in a little bit earlier today. Tomorrow, I'm thinking it's more afternoon and into the evening. But as far as tonight, it's going to be a perfect evening after supper time. Get a walk in, take advantage of the drop in temperatures. You know, that's one thing. I know we're talking a lot about storms and staying inside as these storms move through. But after the storms with these cooler temperatures, enjoy it because it does feel quite pleasant here across our area. All right, so coming up on Weather Extra, we're going to talk more about that storm threat for tomorrow. We're also going to take a look at what's happening beyond the 7-day forecast. We've got a lot of stories here. We've been talking about the heat happening in other parts of the country, that big heat wave. At least for now, some of those heat levels are backing off. I'll see you after the break.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into Good Day, Alabama.
A new morning comes with preparing right, because while you slept, news broke.
We have new information from that breaking news that happened this morning.
While you head out, the storm we gave you the first alert for is on its way in. And as the key turns the ignition, your shorter route to work is being found.
Avoid 459 southbound completely because of a crash.
A new morning means everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama, always on your side.
The First Alert traffic you need to get you there safe and on time. Tomorrow morning, everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama.
You're late, out the door, and on the go. Don't worry.
Good Day, Alabama continues all morning long.
And wherever you watch, this is what you need to know right now.
More reporters on the streets with more hours of news when you need it. Everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama. Knowing first is everything. First Alert Weather.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. We've certainly been stuck in a stormy pattern, but hey, there's been no shortage of weather photos that have been coming in on the First Alert Weather app. We've got this one that was sent in from Ashland today. Notice how it looks like the sky is a little bit wavy. Those are actually undulatus asperatus clouds. Say that 5 times fast. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but basically this means there is turbulence higher up in the atmosphere, and that can cause it to look like there are waves, almost ocean waves moving through the sky. And then we have another shot of some shelf clouds, even almost looks like some roll clouds as well on our weather app coming in from Alexander City. You can see those storms moving in over the lake, and these are the leading edge of the storms. You can really see this. We actually saw this on radar earlier today before the storms came through. You could see this feature, the leading edge of the storms. This is in Thormsby. Thanks to Sharon Smith for sending those in from Chilton County. A gorgeous shot there. And then I love this one too. You can see more of those undulatus asperatus clouds over Briarfield earlier today. A stormy pasture in place. And then how about this photo of the sunset last night? This was in Pelham. I look at this picture, I was saying this earlier, that gives me fall vibes. I may have to indulge in a pumpkin spice latte this week. I don't think they're selling them quite yet at Starbucks, but I got some pumpkin spice at home, just put it in the coffee. We'll make do. But eventually, hey, fall will be here. But in the meantime, we're dealing with an unusually stormy August pattern. We're going to check in now with meteorologist Matt Daniel and Mickey Ferguson to tell us more.
So Mickey, yesterday afternoon, we had some pretty intense storms move into the northern half of the state.
We did. Several severe thunderstorm warnings were posted, and we've got kind of a 24-hour loop of what went down yesterday. Let's see.
Yeah, we had a thunderstorm watch out for the northern half. It got extended. Look at those line of storms push on through, and every little icon you see there is indicating some type of severe report. Most of it was wind reports. We had trees coming down. We had the Coleman Library, some glass got shattered from the strong winds. But what's interesting with the setup, you can see most of the storm reports were to the north. So those storms kind of dissipated as they made their way farther to the south. So pretty intense stuff across that area. Let's show you the 24-hour storm reports. We weren't the only ones impacted by severe weather. There was some active weather towards Denver into Kansas, and also some pretty nasty storms across the East Coast. Some parts of the Mid-Atlantic had several, but 534 preliminary reports of damage across the country, 95 hail reports, and just one tornado report. So that's pretty significant to see these kind of reports in August.
Yeah, we were showing a higher risk area for those Mid-Atlantic states yesterday, and sure enough, they got the brunt of all that, but we had our fair share. As far as rainfall is concerned, so far this month, we have picked up 2 inches of rain, and we're on our way to that 4.35 in Birmingham. We still are lacking a little bit in the Tuscaloosa, but Tuscaloosa received a lot of rain last month. Anniston, 3.5 is what they typically see, and we're almost halfway there.
Yeah, and it's only August 8th, so we got some time.
Yeah, we do.
To add up to the rain. If you've seen our 7-day, we got several opportunities
sure do.
for that. Hey, our weather watchers always giving us those reports, and I'm telling you, in Trussville, Tyler always wins with the rainfall totals.
It seems like he does. Almost 2 inches of rain falling yesterday, a little over a half in Piedmont there from Rick Freeman, half an inch in Lamar County from Tony McDonald.
And in Cordova, Jennifer reporting almost a half of an inch of rainfall there. In Graysville, less than half of an inch from Debbie Alexander. And Ronald Hughes, he's like, yeah, I didn't get much.
Bone dry, 2/100ths of an inch of rain.
Didn't get a lot of rain. So the farther south you were, less likely you were going to see it. But you know, areas to the north, you know, we had a lot of reports of wind, and this is just an example. This was Monday afternoon. Becky sent this in through the WBRC First Alert Weather app and mentioned that the wind actually picked up behind the heavy rain and storm.
How about that?
And I was looking at some of the radar velocity images, and I saw behind that rain we were seeing some pretty intense wind. So there's the wind there just blowing around. And we had some reports of damage like this right here, Mickey.
Dorothy Easter, this was sent in through the weather app. This was at Glenwood Road in Morris, Alabama. So that was down on Glenwood Road, and hopefully they got that cleared up to allow passage there. But man, look at the wind coming through in Coleman.
Looks like a hurricane out there, right? Joel White sent this in. This was at the Office Equipment Company in downtown Coleman, and definitely don't want to be out in that kind of mess, and that's why we saw so much of those trees going down across the county, resulting in some power outages. But that's some pretty intense wind right there. It looks easily 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds probably from that storm alone.
And that's a good way to share it. If you can look from the inside out on some of these storms, because you don't want to get out in it, to share some of that footage. This was from Danny Golden in Altoona. Looks like the trees are blocking the entrance to his home there.
Right, and if you were out in this while these storms were happening and you were on those steps, that could have been bad. So
yeah, it could.
Yeah, definitely want to be in a safe place if you're going to send in these photos and videos. Always encourage that, especially just wait till after the storm. But if you got some photos of some storms, the moving through clouds, sunrises, sunsets, just download the WBRC First Alert Weather app and submit it. And we would love to show it right here on Weather Extra. There's definitely going to be a lot of opportunities for that this week.
Yeah, scattered storms remain in the forecast for several days ahead.
Stay dry.
Well, we saw damage all across the state from storms on Monday afternoon. And of course, we had some storms move through today. But take a look at this significant damage at the Coleman County Public Library from straight line winds yesterday. You can see windows blown out, shards of glass, books and bookshelves in complete disarray. We spoke to a person who had just arrived at the library to return a DVD.
but today's came faster and stronger than any time I think that we've had this year. You know, maybe since March. This was really intense.
Usual to see this type of weather in August. The Coleman County Public Library is closed until further notice. Well, the same system that brought severe weather to Alabama and much of the eastern U.S. also brought damage to many communities in Kentucky. Andrew Colgrove has more.
It like ping-ponged.
Severe weather leaving behind damage and shaken nerves in Lawrence County, Kentucky.
It was scary.
I was shaking.
It's a two-car garage and it's completely smashed.
Denny Clark was watching TV in his home along Birch Road in Louisa Monday afternoon when heavy rain started pounding. Tell me about what this sounded like as this was happening.
Just a bomb going off. I mean, it was so loud and the wind was crazy. I just never seen anything like it in my life.
He says he felt his house shake.
That scared crap out of me.
He later came outside and saw part of a tree had come down, crushing his garage.
This is where the garage door was.
He's grateful his 3 kids were not home when this happened.
They play right here in this room, right beside the garage. That's where they play their Xboxes and all their toys and stuff are.
Pieces of his house left scattered in the woods and hanging in trees. And this is what remains of Clark's pool building. He says he watched out his window as the winds lifted it up off its foundation.
Kid just pulled it completely off the ground and threw it. And it's over here in the woods.
When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Curtis Ryan lives next door. He says as the frightening weather moved in, he took his kids downstairs as a precaution.
I heard that howl and we knew to dip out.
Many snapped trees in the area, another falling on this house nearby. Curtis wonders if they were hit by a tornado.
All I see is just trees and wind. That's it. That's all I saw.
School's getting ready to start. It's a mess. It's gonna take a lot of time and work.
Starting the week with a strenuous cleanup effort.
And farther east in the mid-Atlantic, cleanup is underway in Maryland after Monday's powerful storms. Utility company BGE is working to de-energize power lines that were knocked down in Westminster. State police say they rescued 33 adults and 14 children from cars trapped by the fallen poles. Thousands in the area are still without power. Monday's storms brought heavy rain and strong wind gusts. Some homes sustained damage, but no serious injuries were reported. And in Tuttle, Oklahoma, the county also cleaning up after overnight storms brought powerful winds. It damaged several structures in the area, including blowing off a garage door and downing several power lines, leaving many in the dark. And we also have news out of the Midwest. Multiple homes were destroyed after a tornado hit parts of Illinois over the weekend. Power lines down, trees split in half, and homes ruined in the aftermath. This comes just weeks after another one happened in the same area on June 29th. Friends and family are helping to clean up the damage.
It's feeling like we're getting someplace when it hit again, so. But we're blessed. 8 horses, 3 cows, 2 dogs, and 2 cats outside, and not a scratch.
Well, officials say that trees and power lines will continue to be removed today. The homeowners say they are grateful that no animals or people were hurt, as you can see there. Well, meanwhile, in New England, health officials say the humidity and wet weather has created a breeding ground for mosquitoes in Connecticut. They've since discovered that West Nile virus has been detected in the mosquitoes in multiple towns, but they said there are currently no human cases. Hector Molina has more on this discovery.
Alexander McDonald works at a farm across the street from his Branford home on Hosley Avenue. He spends a lot of time outside, so this was his reaction when we told him a group of mosquitoes gathered at a trap site on his road tested positive for the West Nile virus.
Yeah, that's scary. That's definitely scary, especially with all the rain falling and stuff.
He adds that wet weather combined with the woods and lake near his home create a hot spot for mosquitoes.
There's quite a bit of mosquito, but if you're out at night, you'll see them.
Shannon Prindle runs a daycare just over 3 miles west in East Haven, another area where the West Nile virus was detected.
Yeah, that's pretty scary, actually. So I'll have to let parents know.
So what can Shannon, Alexander, and yourself do to stay protected? The East Shore District Health Department recommends minimizing time spent outdoors around dusk and dawn, Use mosquito repellent containing DEET and eliminate standing water on your property and emptying out any plastic pools, garbage cans, or anything that collects water. The health department also funds a larvicide program that uses an insecticide to help control the mosquito population in East Haven and Branford. Prindle hopes her methods of mitigation will help protect herself and her daycare.
We use bug spray, and we use, we have the little stickers that are like bug deterrent, but I don't know. Yeah. That's something to think about now.
And most importantly, let's make sure that cute little dog doesn't get bit. Well, across the Atlantic, over 1,000 firefighters were deployed to Portugal to help stop 3 wildfires. The biggest fire started Saturday in the Odemira region, and they still remain a big threat to surrounding areas. Along with the firefighters on the ground, they've also had to deploy 322 emergency vehicles and 6 helicopters. 1,400 people have been temporarily evacuated, with 1 firefighter and 3 residents being evacuated to hospital units in which they have since been released. Well, coming up next on First Alert Weather Extra, not looking like dry conditions in our forecast, instead pretty stormy. We'll check in with Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt for a look at those storm chances in the days ahead. Could any strong storms be in the forecast? And I'll take you beyond the 7-day, let you know if anything's going on in the tropics coming up next.
We heard the first alert. Mom says we have to go. She says I don't have time to grab any more toys.
Need to be in your tornado safe place. Get there right now as you have.
We have to get to our safe place because sometimes when you hear the siren, it's too late. That's why she says knowing first is everything.
We know weather can be grab the umbrella or jogging shoes, but it's so much more. It's a science, an art, led by knowledge and experience.
And no one has more of that than a WBRC First Alert weather team.
Warning you first with more hours committed to you. And the first forecast built to see weeks, days, and even minutes ahead, right down to where you live. From the team you trust on your favorite screen.
Doing the weather better. The WBRC First Alert weather team, always on your side.
The first alert is more than a warning. It's a promise. A promise to get you out of harm's way with plenty of time to spare. 4 walls and a roof can be replaced. Lives can't. That's why knowing first is everything. First Alert weather.
All right, welcome back into Weather Extra. All that wet weather has moved on out of here, but the storms will be coming back for tomorrow. Live look at First Alert AccuTrack. Lots of 70s here you can see on the map, and it's going to feel pretty good out there for tonight. That's the one good thing. The temperatures have had a chance to make a little bit of a comeback over West Alabama. Marion there at 82, but we're not expecting any major warm up here. It's going to feel nice and comfortable. That first, well, this is about the third or fourth wave of storms that we've had here over the past week, but you can see that latest wave is now pushing in places like Savannah, heavily impacted from Jacksonville to Savannah. They're dealing with several severe thunderstorm warnings right now, damaging wind gusts, but that is just making its way across Georgia. Look at all the lightning with that system there. That's what we call a mesoscale convective system. It's a complex of thunderstorms. It's more regionalized. It's not as widespread, and that's one of the reasons why we see see these a lot, most often in late spring and early summer. But this summer has been far from normal, I would say, as far as August at least, because we've had an active setup here, and things in the tropics still remain rather quiet. We're not seeing any areas of interest for organization. Hopefully it stays that way, but it can change in a hurry in the tropics. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I know right now things are calm, but we will need to be watching things closely. We're getting towards the end of, or on into August, closer to that peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. But let's talk about tonight and tomorrow. You can see tonight the weather, we're in a break in the wet weather. Things are going to stay quiet. Could be some fog development later on, those lows in the 60s. Tomorrow, though, the heat comes back. We start to see that instability building during the day. This one model that just updated, this is the Barron 3 kilometer. We have some high resolution data. We have all the models here in the First Alert Weather Center. We've got all the data. So as we go through and look at the different computers, this model I feel has a pretty good handle on things for tomorrow afternoon. And you can see there it's showing 1 o'clock. Pretty good chance for storms. I still think in areas all across west, central, and east Alabama, any storm that develops, some of those could be strong or severe. But notice by 6 o'clock tomorrow night, storms dissipate, catch a break, and then looks like by Thursday afternoon, more wet weather coming back, more of these scattered thunderstorms. So it's been off and on, and that's what we're going to be dealing with here next several days. These storms, you can see rain chances 40 to 50% for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Mostly afternoon development there, so there will be some chances. You can tell by the temperatures. You know, you look at those highs and you see 90s, you know it's mostly afternoon storms because we're going to have a chance to warm up, and that's what's going to drive some of that development there during the afternoon hours. But let's head over to meteorologist Lauren Linehan, because Lauren, I mentioned that this is certainly a stormy pattern for this time of the year, but as you noted yesterday, really no sign of this letting up anytime soon.
Yeah, Wes, it still looks like we could be pretty stormy 6 to 10 days from now as we look beyond the 7-day. And you can see not just stormy, but the possibility of above average temperatures if you don't get those storms around during the heat of the day. So that extends to the west coast, from the east coast down south. Really, the exception is in the northern Great Plains and to parts of the Great Lakes. But here in central Alabama, the possibility of above average temperatures. Now, we're not necessarily saying, oh, triple digits in the forecast. So we're talking maybe low mid 90s, possibly upper 90s as we get farther into August, but generally looks like temperatures could be riding just at least a little bit above average. And then as we look ahead to early next week, possibly a little front could come through that maybe could bring us a brief reprieve from this stormy pattern next Tuesday and Wednesday and knock possibly lows down into the 60s. I mean, it's a possibility. It's not a guarantee yet, but then it looks like we'll see that kind of unsettled summer pattern resume. So here we go, looking at the rainfall outlook 6 to 10 days from now, showing a good portion of Alabama could still be seeing the possibility of above average precipitation. So let's see how that pans out in the futurecast beyond the 7-day. Here we are starting Wednesday, August 16th, showing the possibility of, hey, I know, I feel like you guys should all be makeshift meteorologists by now. It's like, she's about to talk about the northwest flow pattern, isn't she? Yep, because that has been that stubborn pattern that we've seen so much of the summer, kind of a pattern that you more expect to see in May. But this has been coming up, cropping up in June, July, August. So it looks like we'll still see the possibility of this bringing some storms and some disturbances in as we go through the middle of the month. And then possibly it looks like maybe we can finally see a little bit more of a typical summer pattern, possibly a ridge of high pressure developing over the western Atlantic known as the Bermuda High, and possibly if that happens we could be seeing a better chance of just your normal pop-up showers and storms that you get on a typical summer day. So more so under the influence of a ridge of high pressure going into farther into the month. Here we are Sunday, August 20th. I will say though, at this time we're not really seeing much in the way of signs of tropical development. We'll keep an eye on things. Now remember, September is the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, but normally as we get into late August we begin to see activity firing up a little bit. So looking at this activity during the Atlantic hurricane season, the actual date that is the peak is September 10th, but you'll notice again later in the month of August we begin to see historically that peak going up, more activity in the Atlantic. But hey, well, if it's going to stay quiet, fine by us. But in the meantime, as we look away from the surface of the Earth, let's travel to the surface of the moon. The 4 astronauts who make up the crew of Artemis 2 visited the Kennedy Space Center to get a first look at the spacecraft that will take them around the moon. According to PBS, even though they won't be touching the moon's surface, they will be in the first crew in 50 years that will be in the moon's vicinity. The mission will last for 10 days. The goal is to test the technology and equipment that will be necessary for future lunar landings and is a huge step towards NASA's planned journey to the surface of the moon. Well, July's sweltering heat offers a glimpse of what future summers might look like. This is because the average global temperature hit a crucial threshold, one that scientists have warned the world should stay under. According to the Copernicus Climate Change Service, last month's temperatures were 1.5 degrees Celsius, or 34.7 degrees Fahrenheit for those of us not as familiar with the metric system here in the U.S., warmer than the pre-industrial era. If the threshold is exceeded in the long term, the world could face more extreme weather events than previously experienced. Well, leaders of several South American countries are meeting for a summit on the future of the Amazon rainforest this week. The summit marks the first time in 14 years the presidents are gathering in an attempt to create a common strategy for the protection of the Amazon. 2/3 of the Amazon lie in Brazil, but the region stretches across an area twice the size of India. The mass destruction of the Amazon rainforest through deforestation is a major contributing factor in climate change. And while those summit countries have set targets for reducing carbon emissions, there is little else in terms of shared policy. And if you weren't aware, one reason why deforestation can be so problematic when it comes to climate change and trying to combat global warming is that forests serve as carbon sinks. So trees like to absorb carbon dioxide. So if you have a vast area like the Amazon rainforest, that can certainly help to combat climate change and take some of those fossil fuels like carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Well, coming up tonight on First at 9, Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt will take a final look at your forecast for you, give you updates on the latest timing with storms coming in the coming days. And of course, you can join us here on Weather Extra every weeknight at 6:30 on your favorite streaming platform. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Have a safe and happy Tuesday evening.